You're welcome back to AfiaTV News tonight, and our conversation tonight is centered on Enugu State. The African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim, has committed to supporting the vision and agenda of Governor Peter Mbah's administration in Enugu State through the financing of several key projects to drive development and investment in the state. And the bank said its interest in Enugu State stems from the vision Mbah had espoused and the work he was doing in the state, which it said were in line with the bank's goals and objectives for the rapid development of the African continent, noting that anything good that happens to Nigeria inextricably happens to Africa. These were made known by the president of Afrexim Bank, Professor Nathaniel Uramah, during a working visit to the government house, Enugu, on Tuesday, describing Mbah's investment and development drive as impressive and adding, and he says, whenever we see a leader take such solid and courageous steps, we fall in line because it makes our work much easier, unquote. Uramah also said, we have been discussing how to support the Enugu State government and people. So this is the first official assignment I would be doing in 2024. It is remarkable for me, and it speaks a whole lot about our friendship and also the confidence in the work that you are doing and the vision that you have, not only for the great state, but also for our country, Nigeria. Unquote. Quote again, I know we have identified specific areas where we intend to quickly advance collaboration. We want to take a look at the hotel and the conference center that is under development to work with you and see how quickly we can complete them. We're also very interested in supporting the development of the new terminal at the airport, and especially the cargo, and of course, using it as a base to implement and grow an agro-processing zone. The airports will be critical in getting that done. Also, meanwhile, Enugu State Governor Dr. Peter Mbah says that the state's 521.5 billion naira 2024 budget, which he recently signed into law, will be financed through internally generated revenue. Mbah also assured that the budget will be implemented to the letter, addressing lingering poverty, hardship occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidy while raising workers' welfare and purchasing power, however called on the workers to be ready to put in their best. Mbah reiterated that about 12% of the 521 billion naira budget would be funded through borrowing, and he appealed to the people for more support through tax payment and protection of public assets. Joining me now to discuss this further is Honorable Dr. Nathaniel Uramah, Commissioner for Finance, Enugu State. You're welcome to the show, sir. Good evening. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
All right, so you worked as a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics, UNN, from 2007 to 2020. That's a very long time. Yeah. Before you joined the CBN in 2020 as an economist with interest in monetary policy, public finance, and external sector economics, and you have 46 publications. Some are co-authored and some are sole-authored. Articles on renewable energy and inclusive economic development, climate change impact, VAT increment, poverty challenges, killings in Nigeria, and exchange rate policy failure. Now, with your core interest in monetary policy, just before we go into Enugu State, tell us quickly how the proposed bank's capitalization, which is the increment of bank capital rates by the CBN Governor Cardoso, would affect the bank business in Nigeria. You've been a part of the CBN, so let me hear your thoughts on that quickly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you for bringing me to this scene, and I'll say Happy New Year to fellow Nigerians. Yeah, you are asking about the bank capitalization. I think the idea of bank capitalization is a very important one. We all know that the issue of bank capitalization was the first big bank capitalization we had in Nigeria was that of Professor Charles Soludo when he was the governor of the central bank. And it's been testified by even the commercial banks now that without that bank capitalization, that they wouldn't know where they would have been by now.
Which was the 25 million naira.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, given the value of naira and the rest of them now, the exchange rate issue, I think the idea of going into increasing the capitalization is a good one, because it's something that is good that is done twice. The first one that was done actually was the one that made the Nigerian bank to be able to be resilient. Even some other issues that affected the international banks did not actually affect the Nigerian banks. And most of this is courtesy of the bank capitalization that was done by Professor Charles Soludo as the governor of the central bank then. So I'm assuring you that this current proposal of bank capitalization is also another good way. It's also leading us to making the commercial bank in Nigeria very strong.
But so we remember that some banks had to merge to be able to achieve that, and up until date, the two prominent banks that merged, you still see some, little issues with that merger, and their customers suffering a great deal. So that might happen again in this, but what do you think would happen to the bank businesses, especially for banks that are not strong enough? Will this take them totally out of business?
Not necessarily. The idea is not to take any bank totally out of business, but it may also lead to merging, as it happened before. But I'm assuring you that we've learned certain things from the previous one. Some mistakes or some of the issues that led to some of the loopholes in the previous consolidation will not occur again. Because the lesson has been learned, and central bank, being a strong policy institution, will surely apply the lesson that was learned from the previous one. And that will make this current proposal of consolidation very strong. And the commercial bank in Nigeria will be dependable. Because that is actually what will bring investment into the country.
Now let's come home to Enugu. It's a very good step in the right direction, and the Afrexim Bank President Uramah reiterated the bank's commitment to ensuring support to Enugu State. And amongst the many needs, why is there an immediate attention on the conference center and hotel? Now I'm going to ask, which hotel specifically are we looking at here? Are these the priority for the government, and how fast does the government think that this will boost the state's economy?
All right, thank you for the question. The visit by the president of the Afrexim Bank was motivated by something. It was a response to a visit that was paid to the bank early last month by myself, the Commissioner for Finance, the Commissioner for Trade, Commissioner for Transport, and His Excellency. We actually went there to actually present a proposal on our key priority projects that fits into their own mission and vision. And then we sought their collaboration on financing those projects. So his visit to Enugu State is a response to that our own visit. And the projects he highlighted are actually those ones that are in line with their own. There are actually 5 key priority projects he highlighted. One of them is completion of our international airport. Number 2 is completion of the cargo wing of the international airport. Then we have that of the International Conference Center, which has been started. We're talking of completing it. Then you can't have International Conference Center without having a 5-star hotel within the proximity, because you're expecting that it's going to host people. And after the conference, the people are going to rest. That's why we are having the need for that, a 5-star hotel.
So there's no hotel specifically, it's just a 5-star hotel. Because I was thinking it was probably going to be a renovation of the presidential hotel. We know it's lying fallow somewhere around Presidential Road.
Not necessarily the presidential hotel. Not necessarily the presidential hotel, but as we're talking now, there is no conclusion on where it will be and what it will be. But all we know is that there is need for a 5-star hotel within the proximity of the International Conference Center. Then the final one is on agriculture, that of building a processing zone, agro-processing zone. Actually, we presented 3, we need 3, 1 in each of the zones within the states. But I think they're interested in financing one of them. So these are the 5 key priority projects that he said the bank is interested in, because all of them are in line with their own. You know, their name is Export-Import Bank. They are interested in things that will motivate exports and imports into the country and out of the country.
Yes.
That is why he was able to highlight these 5 projects that the bank is interested in supporting Enugu State.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, yes, he mentioned impressively supporting the development of the new terminal at the airport, especially for cargo purposes, and which is using it as a base to grow and implement the agro-processing zone. Now, what is the holistic export plan of the government, and how can private businesses benefit from that plan?
The plan of the current Enugu State government is actually to increase exports from the states. That is why we're keen about the agro-processing zone. You and I know that the problem that Nigeria is having is that we don't have addition in the value chain. We produce and export raw materials. We don't add value to them. That is why we're not having enough exports. And that is actually also what is affecting the value of Naira, because if you're not exporting, you are not earning foreign currency. And that will actually lead to the devaluation of the Naira currency. So the target of Enugu State is actually to add value to our agricultural products, starting from the production. Enhance the production, starting from rice, something like rice. You see what happened this year. Most of us, unlike previously, ate Enugu rice.
Last year,
sorry, thank you, last year. So most of us ate Enugu rice, unlike before. Now, that is what we want to do. That was packaging. Now, we are going to increase the production of the paddy, because the Commissioner for Agriculture has done extensive survey on that, and it has been found that we have the capacity to produce enough rice that can actually feed the states and then be exported, both to neighboring states and outside the country. So what that agro-processing zone intends to do is to ensure that there is a value addition to actually what we are producing. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So instead of exporting raw products, you add value to it. By adding value to it, one, you make it exportable. And also the price, the value you're going to get from it will be enhanced. And that will boost the economic activities, it will boost IGR. And on the issue of how it will benefit the masses, actually, you can't talk of agro-processing zone without actually talking of employment. You recall that another key vision of this government is ensuring that employment is increased, and then that poverty head count in Enugu State is reduced to 0. That will be achieved through all these processes. For you to build agro-processing zone, you are going to create employment at different levels of the production process. The farmers in the field, because will be expanded. Now, the transportation sector will be increased, because those products that are produced will be brought to the agro-processing center. For you to be able to operate that agro-processing center, actually, you need employment.
Okay, so if we're talking about, let me cut you in a bit before we go to my next question. If we're talking about having a cargo section in at the airport where you have this agro-processing zone, has the state taken a step further to know about some of the certifications that you have to get? Because if you're exporting these things out, there's certain certifications that you need.
Yeah.
So what's the progress level on the certifications that the Enugu State government would be needing to exporting such products outside Nigeria?
Yes. There's certainly certain certifications you need.
Right.
Which we have actually done the background check. We have actually identified most of them. We are working in collaboration with both the federal agencies to ensure that all those things are acquired. So I won't say specifically that this is where we are, but I'm assuring you that we've gone far in ensuring that as soon as those agro-processing zones and the cargo terminals are ready, we have all the certifications necessary for us to be able to export those products.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll follow up on that.
Progress.
Yes, we'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
Well, let's go a bit more to reports that had it last year that the debt profile of Enugu State internally and externally is estimated at 183 billion naira. You are the economist here. And we know that with the attempt by the government to borrow 170 billion naira last year, the loan portfolio had risen to 182.79% increase above the 93 billion naira domestic debt. This index, however, doesn't look too good when it comes to the government's plan to reduce poverty, just as you mentioned, to the barest minimum. So I'd like to ask, what are the plans to pay off the debt? Because we remember the government saying that it will explore the irrevocable standing payment order, which is the ISPO, amongst the many plans. So are those plans sailing through to reduce the loan that Enugu State is taking to the barest minimum?
Yes. I will start by telling you that the information that the debt profile of Enugu State is high is not a fact. It's not true. Currently, we are having debt to state GDP ratio of 8%. And our cap is 25%. Now, debt to revenue is 136%, and our cap is 200%. Debt service to revenue currently is 7%, and our cap is 40%. So when it comes to the issue of debt, I don't think Enugu State is even close to the cap, given the budget. And the other aspect of it is that when you talk of debt, actually, no state actually grows without borrowing.
Right, but a lot of people frown at the 170 billion naira.
Good. The right question they should be asking is, this money that is being borrowed, if actually we ended up collecting those loans, what would they be used for? That is the right question. The most indebted state in the world is the United States, followed by the United Kingdom. And these are the states we are envying. You can't actually do a business without borrowing. The right question is, what will these loans be used for? And I hope you know that this question has been answered via the 2024 budget, where you're having capital expenditure occupying close to 79% of the budget, and then recurrent only around 21%. This has not happened before, even at the federal level. No state has done it. It's a clear sign to you that even if finally the state goes into collecting those loan facilities, that is going to be used for capital projects.
Such as?
Now, those capital projects includes road construction. Now,
what major road constructions will be done?
Now, you know that 81 roads has been awarded within the state. That cuts across all the area zones in the state. Now, if you want me to mention, a major one is the Enugu-Abakaliki road that will be dualized and towed. We are talking of how will it be financed. An analysis has been carried out, and it's been shown that within the period of the loan, the fees that will be collected from the toll gate will be enough to pay back the loan. Is that
supposed to be a federal road?
It's a federal road, but there has been an agreement with the federal government. They have actually agreed that the Enugu State can go ahead and then dualize the road and introduce a toll gate on it. Now, that aside, that is a direct benefit. Now, talk of the indirect benefit. You're talking of easing the business environment. Because I know you are going to ask me about IGR. You can't talk of increasing the IGR when you don't have a conducive business environment. If business don't thrive, who will pay tax to you? So, what that loan facility will be used for, if we end up actually collecting them, is to actually ease the business environment. Create a favorable, of course, you can know that as soon as this government started, Monday sit at home stopped. That improved business environment. You can also testify that security improved greatly due to the activities of this government. If you actually look at the budget, you see that a chunk of it went into ensuring there is security. Very soon, we are going to have drones flying across Enugu, surveying everywhere, reporting directly to the security if there is any incidents anywhere. This gives investors confidence to come to your state to invest. And as investors are coming, they are going to pay revenue. You are generating revenue. As they are coming, you are creating employment. So we did a thorough research before we embark on what we're doing.
Okay.
We're not collecting the loan. Go to the budget.
Okay.
You see the administration aspect of the budget is very minimal. Unlike before, most of the budget goes into capital. And those capital expenditure are things that will improve the business environment, attract both local and international investors. The target is to make Enugu State the hub of investors, both within Nigeria and across the globe. With that, we are sure of moving Enugu State from the current $4.4 billion economy to $30 billion economy, which is the #1 thing in His Excellency's manifesto.
I like the fact that you're talking about investment, because that was not my fourth question, but I'm going to take on that follow-up question to ask. Yes, I'm going to ask about the IGR. You mentioned that earlier.
I'm there.
So, yes, I wanted to ask, last year, the Enugu State government organized a summit, yeah? An industrial summit. Yeah. But reports that were filtered in after the summit, but I would like to ask you, because you're in the place of authority, why the business people operating in Enugu who have been in this town for, some of them have stayed here for 20-something years, and feelers we got in from those business people were that they were not even invited for the summit. So if you're saying that the Enugu State government wants to make the place easy to do business, do you not think that the business people who have existed in the state, not forgetting that the state is popularly called the civil servant state, so if you have business people who are trying to break through even, you know, shouldn't they have been included in the summit, or are there plans to make these people included because they are actually the ones generating the revenue? Exactly.
You're right by saying that they should have been included. But I'm telling you that there are a series of investment summits that we're going to have that we're already planning. By April 2nd now, we are going to have the one we call the Diaspora Investment Summit. The one we had is not necessarily, you shouldn't call it necessarily an investment summit. It was more like for us to, a pre-summit. So currently, we have different stages of investment summit that are already on ground. Because you can't talk of actually making Enugu State the hub of investors without actually conducting those summits. And just as you say it rightly, we should actually start from those that are already here, because they are the ones to tell us what is the difficulties, the challenges they are having. We've done this. We've conducted a survey to actually know what are the challenges that investors are having in Enugu State. That was actually what led even to the manifesto. That was actually what led to which sector should have a chunk of the budget. Because the key target is making Enugu investment friendly. So we have done the survey, not a summit-like, but a survey to understand the challenges they are having and what they think should be done so that their investment in Enugu State will grow. But I'm also telling you that we have different stages, different layers of investment summit that are already organized. By April, I'm sure we are going to invite you for the Diaspora Investment Summit, where we intend to call our people in different places, because we did our research. The good thing about this administration is that we don't make a speech without a backup. Before we come out and say anything, we've conducted our research. We've done background survey, and we have actually known that what we're saying is real, and what we're saying we're going to do is doable.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the budget of 521 billion naira, which, by the way, is the highest so far in the history of Enugu State. However, the governor has said that the budget would be funded through IGR, and only 12% will be funded through borrowing. Now, should Enugu businesses be worried about an aggressive revenue generation? How friendly would this be to still run businesses here, owing to the fact that such an announcement may come with an upward review of revenues, especially for a state that is popularly known as the civil servants state? Should they be afraid?
No, they shouldn't be afraid. Let me tell you one thing.
Okay.
We are talking about increasing revenue from IGR. We're not talking about increasing any tax rates. We're talking about increasing the revenue collection, making it more efficient. There is something we call underground economy. People who are operating in the state and they're not paying tax. There are different methods of tax collection previously that benefit individuals, but not the state. Let me give you an example. This issue of produce. If you're going on the road, you see people using nails, logs of wood, to block anybody that is carrying agricultural products. Maybe going out of the state or coming into the state, they will be collecting money. Before, these things don't yield any significant revenue to the state, but to individuals. Why? They will just come to the state, pay a token, and say, okay, from Nike to OP is my road. I will pay this amount of money and I will collect revenue from this road for 1 year. At the end, you see that the person may be paying something like 1 million to the state, but at the end of the year, they will be collecting billions of naira from there. That is what we have blocked. So to keep it short, nobody should be afraid of any increase in tax rate. That will not be done.
Okay.
Because we are planning, we're not selfish, we're not planning for our administration alone. We are making sustainable plans that will outlive this administration. After 2031, we want Enugu State to be growing further and further. And for us to achieve that, the best thing is to ensure a conducive business environment. So generally, there are steps we are taking to ensure that increase in revenue, which we've taken and it is working. Number one is expand what we call the tax base. Tax base is trying to capture those that were not paying tax before, not increasing the rates for those that were already paying. Are you with me?
Right.
The second one is to make the collection process very efficient. Before, the cost of collecting the IGR at times even outweigh the revenue that is collected from there. That is why we introduce what we call electronic system, where you may not need to have 20 people employed in an office to collect tax revenue because it's now done electronically. People can now pay their tax using their phone. People can pay their tax using their laptop. People can pay their tax very efficiently. That will reduce the cost of collection, and then it will boost the IGR value. Then we are also talking of introducing taxes on places that were not paying tax before. You see that maybe all these hotels in Enugu State, they are operating in Enugu, making their profits, but actually, what we call the purchase tax is not being collected. They don't do it. It was just recently introduced. Before, you see people coming to collect natural resources like coal from Enugu, and they don't pay anything to government. That is the area we've captured.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So nobody should be afraid of any increase in tax rates. What we are doing is to expand the tax base and then make the revenue collection more efficient.
That's absolutely wonderful and clear enough. But before I go, it's part of our duty here as the media to know from you how accountable that your commission would be. So I'm going to ask my very last question. How open are your books going to be? As the Commissioner for Finance, part of what the administration is looking at should be accountability for Enugu State people. So how open are your books that we can step into your office and say, Mr. Commissioner, can we see your finance books and how the Enugu State's accounts are being run? Are you open to that?
Yes. If you look at His Excellency's manifesto, you see that transparency, accountability, and traceability is the third item in his manifesto. And that thing affects all of us. It trickles down to all the ministries and all the MDAs.
Okay.
So for us to introduce e-ticketing, you know that we're ready for accountability, because under e-ticketing, everything is transparent. Currently, as I am now, if I open my phone, I'm seeing the amount of revenue coming into the states.
Okay.
Every other person can see it. His Excellency can see it. The chairman, Board of Internal Revenue, is seeing it. The Auditor General is seeing it. The Accountant General is seeing it. There are so many people that are logged into it.
Okay.
So nobody can actually divert the resources of the state. And of course, given the type of person His Excellency is, you know, a leader determines what happens at the base. Whatever he does is what all of us that are under him will do.
Okay.
And of course, you know that accountability is the key thing in him. Whatever he's doing from his appointment, you should know that he's very transparent. He's very transparent, he's very accountable, and that thing is what all the ministries, all the MDAs are doing currently. For us to try, even in salary, we are introducing, we're actually making it digital. That is to remove ghost workers, where you see people receiving salary without going to work.
Okay, so we'll save that conversation for another day. We'll have quite some things to ask you, but that will be a conversation for another day. We want to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Honorable Dr. Nathaniel Uramah, Commissioner for Finance, Enugu State. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you so much.